Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to crack open the toolbox on a really big topic, how to effectively monitor your Amazon Bedrock applications.
When you finally get that GenAI app deployed, it can feel like a total black box, right? You know it's working, but what's actually happening inside? It makes things like debugging and, making it better almost impossible.
So, in this Explainer, we are going to turn on the lights. We're going to walk through how you can use some core AWS services to really illuminate every single part of your Bedrock application. I'm talking everything from a simple API call all the way up to the most complex agent.
All right, let's just dive right in. We're starting with what is honestly the most fundamental and powerful thing you can do: logging every single model invocation. Seriously, this is your ground truth.
So where do you send all these logs? Well, you've basically got two main options, and they each have their own superpowers. You've got CloudWatch logs. Think of this as your live streaming feed. It's perfect for what's happening right now and for running those quick queries when you're debugging. Then you've got Amazon S3. This is your giant long-term archive. It's the best choice for doing big batch analysis and for storing those huge data payloads, like images or audio files that are just too big for CloudWatch.
Setting up S3 is actually pretty straightforward. You just create a bucket, and then you add a bucket policy. It's basically like giving the Bedrock service a key so it can unlock the door and drop the logs right inside. It's really just a simple handshake to get that data flowing.
Now, for CloudWatch, it's a little bit of a different dance. This one involves IAM roles. So first, you make a log group. That's where the logs are going to live. Then you create this special role that Bedrock can, temporarily wear or assume. This gives it just enough power to publish those log events and absolutely nothing more. It's super secure. Okay, so we've got our logging foundation set up. Now let's put it to work on a really common headache: debugging knowledge bases. If you've ever built a RAG app, retrieval augmented generation, where the model pulls answers from your own private documents, you know that just getting the data ingested correctly can be super tricky. And honestly, without logs, you are just flying blind.
So, picture this. You run an ingestion job, and some of your most important documents, they just vanish. They're not in the knowledge base. You dig into the logs, and you see this message: status, resource ignored. And your first thought is, why? What happened here?
And this is where having those logs in CloudWatch is an absolute game changer. With just one simple query and logs insights, boom, you can instantly see every single document that got ignored. And the best part? The reason why it was ignored is right there in the log event. No more guesswork.
And you can get even more specific than that. Let's say the document was found, but something went wrong during the embedding process. That's the part where the text gets turned into a bunch of numbers, a vector, so the model can actually understand what it means. Well, with another simple filter, you can pinpoint exactly those kinds of failures across maybe thousands of documents in just a few seconds. It's incredibly powerful.
Okay, so logging is fantastic for doing those deep dive investigations. But for a real-time pulse check, to see how things are doing right now, you need metrics. And this is especially true when you start using the more advanced stuff, like agents and guardrails, where performance and safety are just absolutely critical.
Let's talk about guardrails. You get this really rich set of metrics right out of the box, which is awesome. You can see things like how many requests are coming in and how fast they're being processed. But the one you really want to keep an eye on is invocations intervened. This is the one that tells you exactly how many times your safety policies have had to step in and actually do something. Block a response, change a prompt. It's your safety net in action.
And then, for agents, the metrics get even more detailed. Yeah, you can see the total time for a request, but you can also see TTFT, that's time to first token. Now, this metric is so important for user experience, especially in a chatbot. It's the difference between your user feeling like they're having a real conversation and them just staring at a blinking cursor, wondering if the thing is broken. What's even cooler is that you can zero in on the model latency, which helps you figure out if a slowdown is because of your agent's logic or if it's the underlying foundation model that's taking its time.
Okay, so here's a really crucial point. Monitoring isn't just about staring at dashboards waiting for a red line to pop up. It's about building a system that can react automatically. A system that can respond to events and also keep a bulletproof record for all your security and compliance needs.
The first piece of this automation puzzle is Amazon Event Bridge. The best way to think about it is like the central nervous system for your entire AWS environment. It's constantly listening for important events from all your different services, including Bedrock, of course, and then it routes those events exactly where they need to go.
So let's walk through a quick story to see how this works. Imagine you've got a big model fine-tuning job. It's been running for hours, and then suddenly it fails. Okay? That failure, that's our event.
Now, instead of you having to obsessively check the AWS console, there's a rule you set up in EventBridge that's just watching. It sees that event pop up, and it recognizes the pattern you told it to look for, a Bedrock job where the status is failed.
The second that rule matches, it immediately triggers a target. Now, a target could be anything, really. It could kick off a Lambda function, it could create a support ticket, but in our little story here, it's just triggering a simple notification topic with Amazon SNS.
And here's how the story ends. Your on-call engineer's phone buzzes with an SMS alert the instant that job fails, so they can start looking into it right away. No delay. That is the power of event-driven automation.
All right, let's switch gears for a second. For a completely different kind of visibility, one that's all about security and compliance, we need to talk about AWS CloudTrail. You can think of this service as your ultimate audit log. It records literally every single API call made in your account. The who, what, where, and when, it's all there.
Now, there's a really important concept to get your head around with CloudTrail, and that's the difference between management events and data events. So, management events are things that change your resources, like creating a new agent or stopping a job. Those are logged by default, but then you have data events. These are the high-volume, every-second kind of operations, like the actual invoke agent calls. Those are not logged by default, and for a good reason. You have to specifically opt in to log them, otherwise you'd get just an absolute flood of data that you probably don't even need.
So, let's wrap this all up. As you can see, Amazon Bedrock is not a black box. Not at all. You have this whole comprehensive toolkit right at your fingertips. You've got CloudWatch for your real-time logs and metrics, S3 for all your bulk data, EventBridge to automate everything, and CloudTrail for that complete, undeniable audit trail.
And that really leaves us with one final thought to take away from all this. With all of this data now visible, the question changes. Are you just watching for errors after they happen, or are you going to use these insights proactively to build smarter, more resilient, and way more efficient AI applications right from the start?